Hey, everybody, it's Cam and Rob, and we have a really important message for you. We have a really thrilling experience for you to join. It's the virtual magic show of Rhett Gooder, and it's coming up soon. There are two options for tickets. One is in the room. You'll be in the room participating with him in his virtual magic show. It's going to blow your minds. The other one is the option just to stream it and watch it in a private room. Get your tickets. This is something that we're really excited about, and we don't want you to miss it.
This is going to be the most interactive experience yet to date. Come join us on May 8th at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tickets available on playupstream.org.
Stop trying to be so cool all the time and get tickets. Enjoy yourself.
Stop trying to be so cool all the time and just enjoy yourself.
Little sneak peeks on this episode, Rob. It's going to be an exciting one.
I need a theme song. You ever want that where you're walking down and there's a song that plays and it's just your mood, right?
Yeah, as if your life was a musical.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to sing all the time, right? I mean, maybe. Yeah. I'm not a great singer, but
if someone else's life was a musical and you happen to be around it.
Yeah, but when I walked in, it was dope like that. I'm kind of walking in and then all of a sudden, and they're like, who's that guy?
Just leave it on for a second.
Yeah. Just imagine me walking it's mildly in the future. No mask on. Breathing the Lord's air. And I've got,
hey everyone, I'm Cameron. And this is Rob.
That's me.
And we've got a podcast for you today. It's exciting. Whoa. Lots of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Rob, how are you feeling?
Oh gosh. This has been a week, man. First of all, let me just preface this with I have given up the tainted juice, as they say. I have for 30 days, for 2 fortnights, 20 fortnights to 4 nights, I will not be imbibing libation. And I'm letting my body heal. So it's been tough because, to be honest, I this is not I don't have, this is a choice for my physical. I want to lose a little bit of the poundage of the COVID weight, right? Summer's coming up. I don't really care about that, but I feel like soon enough, I'll have to shave my head and I want to look chiseled for that. But also I've been working really, really hard and I like to have a few drinks to unwind. But then sometimes I find that it starts to affect my body. But more so than that, I've been thinking a lot about what the need is to take that sort of mental vacation. Why do we need to calm it down? Don't even bring it down, right? Why do I need to have drinks? Or I always attributed this, I used to drink a lot more, all the time when I was younger. And I think about how that was a Band-Aid for me, right? I never really solved what the major issue is. And then, I think that a lot of that comes from the idea, when we kind of do things the same nature, we kind of go on this path and we're looking at things a little bit more linearly in our lives. That I feel sometimes this is not a negative way because there's millions of great things going on in my life, but I feel relatively for lack of a better term, just stuck in one spot. I think about what are the choices I could have made when I was younger, career-wise, or am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? Kind of question. And that kind of is weird to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, am I going to be a teacher forever? Is that what I want? And the mystery of being young and going I'll figure it out, man. I'll be I'll have a space car by now, and then all of a sudden you're I'm, in my very early 30s or so early 30s that, what is this what I'm going to do, forever?
Yeah. I think that was I remember as a young kid, you in class, you'd always have little projects of like, oh, when I'm 30, I want to have achieved these things.
Yeah.
And it feels like that was always like the early 30s was the age
Mm.
that you as a kid thought, well, you were going to have made it. And that was,
Yeah. I was gonna have
is that how you
dogs.
feel?
Yeah, I was gonna have dogs. I was gonna have dogs. Gonna have a nice house. I felt like I was gonna I would have figured out my career by then.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, oof. I wonder often. Like, I love my job. Don't get me wrong. This is not anything about my job. It's just about my brain and my wanting
Mm-hmm.
to experience different things and go and when do I want to go back solidly into acting, or when I want to do these things to become. And I think a lot of people go through that. I was talking today with my students, and we were talking about your point of view, right? Your artistic point of view. How are you going to have an artistic point of view? How are you going to have a point of view for a character that you're performing if you don't know how well you feel about things? And I think I've just come to that point in my life now of this, why do I do things that I do? Like, thinking about the process of me. And I want them to have that opportunity to think about that way earlier in their lives, when they're like, shit, what do I want? Like, how do I feel? What's my opinion on things? How do I feel about stuff? And I was thinking about that in my artistic point of view and how things have moved on, and what I want to do and how much that's changed in a year. But I'm like, I'm hungry, baby. I want to go perform again, but I want none of the stress that comes with that, or not nothing, none of the negative part, just all the glory as per usual, So that's been weighing on me, bro. I'm stiff in the neck right now.
What have you done anything to figure it out, or to take steps towards the process of figuring it out?
Yes, I brought it up during this podcast. And leading us to that next thought process is somebody, I think, who can really open up this Pandora's box of life, and how we find little quicksand piles that we get stuck in, and we're like, oh no, if we just
Give me that little
stayed
vibe
still.
again.
Oh,
Give me that
hell
little
yeah.
vibe again for this.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. Hang on. Let's get ready for this. And because you need to I wouldn't feel stuck if this song was just on repeat. All right. Let's bring him in. One of our oldest podcast friends, the OG, if you will, one of the original G's. We have our local artist. We have our local artist, an expert on all things that are beyond the scope of our brain waves and just pure grooving. Please welcome the creator and originator of the intro to the and sometimes guest podcast. Goodbye, Lunar. Welcome.
What up? What's up, guys? How's it going?
Just living the dream, baby. I mean, did you hear the vibes we were having? Are they familiar to you?
Oh, yeah. Sentimental. That's the new single from my upcoming album.
This is exciting. It hasn't been released yet, right? We're getting some sneak peeks today.
Yeah, exactly. Just, dabbling in future stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the idea of having the soundtrack as you walk down the street.
Well, I do that normally, right? Like, I'll be walking down and I'll put if I have my headphones in and something really there's mood things that I'm in, and if that song comes on and makes me feel badass and futuristic and a suave dude, I'll order 2 more fancy cocktails than I normally would, right? It's just it imbues me with joys. So that song's called Sentimental.
Yeah.
So how first of all, how do you tie in a title of a track to a track? Do you know, as an artist, the theme or what you want to call it, or is that title emerge from your experience of being in it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, when I first started songwriting, I would take hours trying to decide what the song title would be. And then I just quickly realized that you kind of have to just listen to the song and then just sort of okay, like what is the song about, you know, and like what is it really about, like, and sometimes it's very obvious, like in that song it's super obvious because in the chorus I'm just like saying sentimental over and over again, um, but then sometimes the title becomes something that's not even in the lyrics. It's just like the vibe of the song is that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I guess it depends on the type of genre too, because there's like certain genres where the title is like pretty much irrelevant. Like it could literally be anything,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, I don't know. That one in particular was easy because I just say it over and over. So
Dude, so tell us about the new album, the upcoming album. How'd you put it together? What were the difficult things? What did you put into it? What did you take out of it?
so this would be my second solo album, and by solo I mean like completely, like in my apartment, just recording on in here and like during quarantine. Um, and so the first one was a self-titled, and this one is more of like a fully fleshed out concept album. Um, and the name of it is "Are We Stuck?" So like, it's funny. Like the way the album started was when when my girlfriend Marika, she's sort of been helping me out
Shout
with
out.
like, yeah, shout out Reeks. She's been helping me with like, you know, just like marketing stuff because I hate doing like social media. In fact, I have a song on the new album called "Fuck Social Media," but
What was that?
fuck social media.
Is this
Yeah.
like a mantra of yours? Why fuck social media?
Oh man, for so many. I mean, so before I created this project, I basically was off of like Instagram for like 4 years. So like when I did this whole thing, I sort of had to like throw myself back into the all that stuff and like
Gotcha.
promotion and all that stuff. And it's like I don't know, it's like a little bit soul sucking, you know?
Oh yeah, man.
It's like you like act like a different person. Like when you're trying to post something, you like think about it forever. At least I do. I don't know because I'm
Yeah.
probably really self-centered, but um,
Yeah, it's a weird substitute for reality. Like,
yeah,
you know, I often look at myself, I'm like, cool, bro, you like sat and like looked at social media for like 3 hours, right? And
yeah,
I could have learned a new skill, right? Because I thought I've been thinking about that a lot over this period of time. Like my answer to everything is I don't know how to do it. I should learn how to do it. Kind of like changing the thought process, and that's like revealed itself in the things that I've been cooking. I wonder if it's a byproduct of our more free time or more feel of control over time. But at least for me personally,
yeah,
but like cooking has been one thing where I've been like, it's a renaissance for me about like, well, I'll never know how to do that. And then you just type in on this magic computer that I have in my hands all the time, and I go like, how do I make beef ragu? And it's like, here's all the steps and ingredients you need. Like, it's not that hard, but I'll sometimes just allow myself to literally, it's fun, be stuck on like this thing that
yeah,
is like it's a substitute for conversation, but you feel involved, like you're hanging. It's such a weird, strange creature that
yeah.
we invented as humans.
And I guess that was like sort of the starting point for this album because I did have to like throw myself. And for the first album, like
Hmm.
I just went through a lot of like anxiety, like putting it out and like because you know I've always been in different bands and sort
Sure.
of a sideman instrumentalist, so this is like the first time I'm sort of doing it by myself. Um, but so I got over that first hump, you know, like the first album, so I felt much freer to like
Oh yeah.
just sort of experiment and like go out all out on this one.
Yeah.
So it has like way more tracks. It's like double the length and like it has a lot of different sounds on it. But all of the songs are sort of related to that theme. And like, are we stuck? Is like, yeah, we can be stuck in many ways, and like social media is one of those ways. Just because like it just seems like it's the same thing over and over again. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
What did you
So when you,
okay. You first, Cam. You first, you lovely beast.
well, thank you. I was just gonna ask, when you're starting an album like this, you got over the hump of the first one. I have a lot of musician friends that, there's two different ways they kind of do it when they're starting the writing process.
Yeah.
They either, kind of live normally, absorb their arts, different types of musics. And then I have other friends that'll just go and completely get away from every other type of music or visual art or books or any type of art that would influence them and kind of shut themselves out.
Yeah. In
So,
fact, that's a good point. Sorry, you can finish your.
no, that was
Yeah,
on.
because I was talking to my good friend Zach, who was in a band with me in college, and he's back in Montana, but he lived with me in LA for a couple of years. And he's a great singer and great rock singer and good lyricist too. And he was asking me, we just had a Zoom session. He was asking me, what music are you listening to? And I was like, oh man, like I'm definitely listening to music, but like it used to be back in the day, I used to be like had playlists and like had albums that I was listening to all the way through. And I found myself like, I don't listen to that much music currently. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know if that's good or bad, because you just said like you want to separate yourself from influences and kind of find your own sound.
Yeah.
But it's like I felt a little like guilty. I was like, oh man, I should be listening to more music, and like, it's weird, but yeah, it's a good point. So going back to how this album started, so Marika helped me sort of get the album cover together for the first album, and we actually got this album cover for this album done in the same day. She took like a picture of this club I used to play in pre-COVID, where I was in this like Cuban band, Clifton's in downtown LA. It's like this nice, like really big. It used to be like a warehouse, but they turned it into like a speakeasy club. And she took like a picture of like the dance floor, but it was like everyone had their backs to the camera. And so she edited it in a way where like everyone looks like ghosts, and like it's really cool. So like basically we were like, oh my god, that's the cover for the second album, and so then like that sort of became. So and then like the first song I wrote was called "Are We Stuck?" So then like I immediately like zoned in on the album cover as like the inspiration for the album, basically.
Nice. That's cool. You said something about like the first album was very like challenging for you to put out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the same way about a lot of my art, and I feel like I don't complete things, or I don't want to put them out there, or I'm afraid of that stress level. But I always find it interesting that when I have like success or I complete something, that it makes me so much more motivated to do the next thing, and even have more excitement, because I can focus on all the stuff. I already know how to do it now, right? I've completed these things, and I find that often I'm like, I never start things, and if I just did it and completed it, it would start this kind of like, just snowballing effect. Do you feel the same way about this second album? Because I noticed, like, just being friends with you and talking to you and interacting with you, like, you very much seem to be more confident. This is coming out sooner. Like I think you have a clarity about this. And does that, how was that, evolved?
I mean, I'm just learning how to like write songs better. Like I think that's the what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not saying I hate all the songs on the first album. Like
I don't know, man. Sometimes the way you talk about it.
I know. But like I can't listen to it,
You obviously love it. You obviously.
Well, I think
love
that's true. I think that's true with like most forms of artistic expression. You look back on things you did when you were young, and you're like, "Ooh, I was terrible."
I probably have to wait like 6 years, and then I'll listen to it.
At least it's not an arbitrary date.
You'll appreciate it again.
This is a 6-year minimum. So what influence, like, okay, so you write an album called Are We Stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you in your current thought process, or what was like that obviously has meaning behind it? Where does that come from? Because I know I was just talking about being stuck. That's kind of the theme of this one, because I've been thinking about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, well, theme's a good word. And it encapsulates all of the things we're thinking. But like, so how does that, why is this sort of, it's a question, right?
Yes, question. I guess like, you know, it's kind of cliche, but like the mid-20s thing where like, you know, I'm 26, so like I'm getting some to a point where like you were just, I think you were talking about this in the intro, like the fact that like you start thinking about, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? You know, or like, am I going to live in LA for the rest of my life? And like with COVID, um, you know, before COVID, like right when everything shut down, I had like multiple gigs lined up, and like I was in like the best position that I had been in like years, in terms of gigs, in terms of networking, all that stuff. So then like, you know, everything shuts down and all this, and everyone just kind of goes into their own world, you know, and like that was already happening with social media, but like I feel like it just like exacerbated it times
Yeah.
five. Like everyone just crawls into their own holes, and like, and so it was just like me asking generally, like, are we stuck as a human race? Like, are we stuck as you know, Americans, or are we stuck as like as like humans, like in our own ways, in our own molds? You know, we each have our mold, and like as we grow older, we sort of like settle into that mold even more.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, can we break out? Because I guess like, are we stuck? Dot dot dot. Can we break out of it? Like, can we transcend like the whatever, like, can we transcend whatever we've set ourselves for? Like, can we break free out of that and like, you know, kind of butterfly our way
Yeah.
out of like what life has already like deemed that we should be or that we should do. And then a second component to that is, I mean, I guess I could be pretty frank about this. I've never been like open about this really, but like being in a relationship for so long, you know,
Yeah.
and like with Marika, and you know, I guess people can relate. Like if you've been in a really long relationship, you you know, and you love each other so much, and like the first album had so many love songs on it, so like it's not a secret. This is not a secret. Like I'm not saying anything crazy, because if you listen to the first album, it's all like a lot of it is about
Oh,
that.
it's an honest human thought about what you're going through. You know, there's
Yeah,
no connotation to it. It's a conversation, right?
right. And so it's like asking ourselves too, like as in the same way I'm asking, like, are we stuck as humans? Are we stuck as people? Are we stuck in, not in this relationship, but like, are we stuck in the sense that like we have to compromise for each other,
Yeah.
right? And she has aspirations, I have aspirations, so like it's it's just like a, you know, I guess it's like cathartic to
Mhm.
just like write songs trying to like figure that shit out, you know. Um, and like there's no like clear answers on the album. It's just, it's mostly like posing different questions. Like a lot of the songs are like posing ideas or posing questions and trying to like push myself and like push others too in the way they think. And I have one song called Beholden, which is like sort of my take on religion, which is like a whole other theme that we could delve into. But like I grew up Catholic. Like I grew up, like my whole family's Costa Rican, so they're like super like Roman Catholic, and like um, just sort of starting to realize how much that traumatized me, like being indoctrinated into that lifestyle. And so like I wrote a song about that on the album, and like, so it's not all just like sappy love songs, you know. It's like it's that, and like the first album was definitely all sappy love songs. So like I'm glad I was able to like write about more stuff, I guess. I'm like, yeah.
You
Well,
got deeper on this album. You got into deeper subjects for yourself.
Yes, definitely. Hmm.
that's great because we talked about artistic point of view too, and I think that like that's that discovery about what you mean, right? We talked to Brett or sorry, Rhett Gooder. Excuse me. I'm was listening to the people outside my window, like talk about motorcycles or whatever's going on. So we had Rhett Gooder on, and he said some, some really interesting, some interesting things on that same topic about like, keep going until you find out what you mean, which really meant a lot to me because I'm like, hell yeah, like that's the thing. Like, what do I mean? What's my take on all this? And then, you're sitting there now contemplating things. We've all had that situation. Like I've been in a longer relationship and I think finding love young, right, is a blessing, and it's a challenge in some ways, right? As naturally, because you think about that and you're like, okay, like it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, but there's still thoughts that we have, like what would I do? What would my life be like this way? Or, like if we'd found, we're in this situation now and there are these things that come with that, with that thing. The same as is if you've been relatively single your whole life. Like you're like, I wonder what a relationship is like, and then there's all that gamut, but I think that's totally natural. I think there's people who get married too who think the same thing, right? Is this my life? I thought that way hardcore when I was younger, and I didn't want anything to do with relationships or getting married or any of those conversations, because I was like, I want to experience all these things. It's all, I want to go somewhere new. I want to do this stuff. And it can be challenging because there's this thing about life where we are never happy until it's like a memory or something. It was the greatest time when I remember it, but while I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, well, I wish I was home taking a nap or whatever. Like I watch a play and I hate plays until they're over, and it's the greatest experience I ever had. It's like the strangest thing, but I think those are those things where I think honest reflection is really important. And in music, are you not like reflecting on the things you're thinking about, but just in a different, not with necessarily with words sometimes, but tonally or emotionally or, conceptually?
Oh yeah. Like that's, I mean, like when I was growing, like we talked about this when I was previously on the podcast, like my growing up playing classical and like being trained as a classical musician. So like the first music I listened to was classical. And so like classical music is all about like sentimental stuff. Like it's all about the emotions and like the ups and downs and like so like from a very young age I was like extremely like sappy, Like I was very like sensitive and emotional, and so like when I'm on the piano or like when I'm playing, like it just sort of all like bleeds out, and it's sometimes like a little intense too, like it's sometimes I have to like step away from it, and like especially nowadays where like a lot of like popular music is like devoid of emotion, where it's like all about like it's sort of like more nihilistic in that sense. It's more about like sort of closing yourself off from emotion and like acting like nothing can touch you, nothing can hurt you,
Yeah, it's like a acoustic alcohol, like
I like that's good.
You know what I mean? Because that's what music does to me sometimes. Then that's why I drink too, right? Is I want to be numb to the feelings that I have, and it's it's an interesting medicine. And I think we don't think enough about how like we've been conditioned to be such logical creatures that we think stuff like yoga is going far, or like hippie. We used to think that like someone did yoga, we'd be like, oh my goodness, do you eat raw oats? And then now people eat raw oats. And they do yoga, and it's pretty common. But I think that we've lost sort of this ability to allow ourselves to be affected or express ourselves with things other than words sometimes, right? Like there's a lot of things that happen. And I think that, and I think as like listeners, you hear us talk about a thing, but I think it's like super interesting the fact that we have a musician and we could also like experience how you've created something about this idea, right? So like we have a luxury right now where we have like a human being who's going, it could take what they're talking about and personify it through an art form. So I would love to hear a song that sort of encapsulating you're feeling right now about that relationship conversation,
Yeah, sure.
Sweet.
Grab the guitar for this one.
Oof. It's just like, this is the magic of things. Just go like, hey man, I'm thinking about a feeling. And you're like, I got a song for that.
Got a song. I've written something about it.
I've written something about that.
Is there anything you want to say about this before we play it, or should we just experience it with you?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna play it. That's okay.
Love it.
I love that. That's great.
Take these goddamn headphones off.
What's the name of the song?
So this song is called "Tied In."
Love it.
Awesome. Tied In by Goodbye Lunar coming up on the new album.
Check. You've got me twisted up in a ball, it's crazy. No chains, so enticing that I can't resist it. Blindfolded through life. Time just keeps its course till space erases it. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. I'm tied in, baby, I'm tied in, and that's okay with me. I'm tied in, baby, I'm tied in, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. Losing, you've got me losing all my senses. Tied in, tied up in the same old game I'm losing. Read me, yeah, read me when I'm tired, read me when I'm down for it. Lucid, having different dreams but the same old feeling. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. Yeah. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. I'm tied in, maybe I'm tied in, and that's okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It was Goodbye Lunar. Tied In, upcoming album, Are We Stuck? What a beautiful melody to that song.
You know, I listened to that song. I listened to a lot of your first album, right? I really enjoyed it. I think we've talked about that.
Yeah.
You can just see how much more confident you are as an artist through that song. Like that's organic and that's honest, and it has such a connection. Like I really, you, I empathized with the energy you were giving out. Right, it was really calming and bittersweet. I feel like I want, like the message that was behind it. It was great. In
Yeah.
that yeah, there's a lot to think about with that. But what what are you when you play a song like that, or and just like the ideas behind it? What does it evoke in you?
Well, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that you like it. And, that's one of the sappy love songs. I said I was, but um, you know, like when I showed, I don't know. It's interesting feeling to like love someone so much, and like I guess what the song's about is like you love someone so much, and you know, like you're also tied to them in a lot of ways. So like if anything it would to happen, or like if you guys were to like, then like a part of yourself would die. You know, it's like I'm tied in. So like
What happens to you happens to me.
exactly, and like it's a good feeling because people sometimes go through life their whole entire lives trying to search for that feeling,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of being like grateful to have that, but also like at the same time it's like it's okay with me, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like it's sort of like reassuring myself. It's like, yeah, this is good, and I'm grateful, and I don't know. I hate talking about songs because it's just like I feel like I'm ruining the song by just talking about
That's
it,
why
you
I don't
know?
think you need to tell like what I'm just curious of like how you feel when you play it, like what does it evoke in you? Because I think what's interesting is I've played like roles multiple times or a lot of times, right? You get in this thing, and then if you're not being really cognizant of what you're feeling or putting into that thing as you're doing it, I mean, I think that's how we get people tied into what we're doing or saying as performers, right? Is that you're putting out this energy that like how do I interest them, and it has to come from an organic, honest thing from you, right? And when we connect to
Yeah.
that path, it's so powerful. So I think, yeah, no, I get that too, right? You don't want to ruin like, this is what the song's about. Never can it change, I own it.
Yeah. But it's also like a part of me feels like I don't even deserve it, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like that's like where it gets a little hairy because it's like I like okay, so like one of my favorite writers is Kurt Vonnegut, and like he like he created this character like in a lot of his novels called his name's Kilgore Trout, and he's like this like nobody science fiction writer who like has written like 200 books, but they're all get published in like pornographic magazines, you know, as like and like short stories and stuff. So like he never like really gets the fame and like adoration that he feels he deserves. But then like later in his life, he like randomly becomes like one of the most famous and like revered people on the planet. And it's like at it, he's already at like an old age, you know. And it's like, but he's also like, so I kind of like relate to that in a way because it's like I know that I can write good stuff and I know I can do, but it's like I don't really deserve to like be praised for it, you know. Like sometimes I just, oop, you guys hear that?
Yeah, you just make some money.
Yeah, cha-ching. All right, that's off.
Yeah, it's because you played your song, bro. We're live.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
an
yeah.
instant. It's an instant donation.
Oh man, but yeah, I have a track called Vonnegut on the album, um, and it's just like a little lo-fi instrumental track that kind
Do you
of
mind
just.
if we play it and give a little sneak peek of it?
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, you can kind of.
That'd be awesome.
Let's do it to it.
And they were right. Breakfast of Champions is a tale of a meeting of two lonesome, skinny, fairly old white men on a planet which was dying fast. One of them was a science fiction writer named Kilgore Trout. He was a nobody at the time, and he supposed his life was over. He was mistaken. He became one of the most beloved and respected human beings in history. I do know who invented Kilgore Trout. I did. I made him snaggletooth. I gave him the same legs the creator of the universe gave to my father when my father was a pitiful old man. They were pale white broomsticks. They were hairless. They were embossed fantastically with varicose veins.
Tell me about Kilgore. Where did he come from? Where did you invent him from?
I think psychologically Kilgore Trout is what I thought I might become, is what I say. I noticed how poor science fiction writers were. I was one of them at the time, and I was as poor as any of them in the scared. One woman did a learned article on me. I do not know her, but she has a doctorate in literature, and she is a critic. And she said that Kilgore in the different books represents my psychological state. My psychological state. My psychological state. Books represents my psychological state. Books represents my psychological state. My psychological state. Books represents my psychological state.
All right.
Wow.
That-
You did a studio session where you played along with some painting, and I thought it then, and I think it even more so now. You have an immense talent of really bringing out emotions and feelings through your playing.
I appreciate that, and that's funny that you say that because, okay, so the funny story is that for that session, I had made a series of lo-fi beats that I wanted to use, and I just like forgot to like share the audio before the show. So like it turned out to be fine, but like one of the beats was that what we just played. So like,
Oh wow.
yeah. So but what I was trying to do with that is just trying to like relate to what Vonnegut was saying in that clip and like in a musical way and trying to like basically just reflect what he was saying musically.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting concept, right? Like I'm going to listen to an idea that somebody's putting out. I just read that quote that I'm probably wrong, but I think it was Socrates where it's like, the small mind talk about people, the regular mind talks about events, and then the great minds talk about ideas, right? So they're kind of larger and intangible, and they're changeable, and there's these things, right? And it's interesting because you take what somebody's given out as a larger idea and you try to personify that through sound, right? And that's so interesting because I think it's fascinating that literal tonal noise can reflect to us a feeling, right?
It's crazy to me. Like I still don't even understand how it does that. Yeah.
Is primal, right? It's something in us. And music has become this thing. Like I think about the therapeutic nature of music, right? Or how it changes how I'm feeling about something. And really, I don't know how, because it's just noise in a rhythm, or sometimes there's dissonance in that as well, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like even that, and there's so many little bits and pieces of that are designed, but that sound, those sounds make me feel and invites my brain to go different places. And lo-fi, that whole, like, I don't know if I'm assuming that's a relatively new thing, because I was just turned on to lo-fi beats a few years ago, it seems, maybe less.
It's like a derivative from like R&B, like soul, like you think like the Erykah Badu and like the sort of like late 90s hip hop, where it was like a lot of like very mellow, like beats with like very mellow vocals over it.
Right.
And then I think it just became like a thing where it was like instrumental,
Yeah.
like
Because
stuff to study and relax to. So.
yeah, that was what was I loved is it was something so cool that I could put because honestly I'd always whenever I work I would put on like The Office or something, and I'd always just end up watching The Office, right? Like I mean inevitably, but lo-fi was really great because I could sit there and it kind of invited my brain to think a little or think in a different way, right? I didn't have to think so like directly. I could think indirectly or it could stir my ADD a little bit with these sort of like feelings.
Yeah.
What was the like? Is that do you make lo-fi because you need to express those feelings you have? Like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like that creative, like to just be able to, it's almost like you're doing it improvisationally in a way.
I've sort of always like done that. Like even when I was in college and stuff, like a lot of when I would just sit in the practice room and I had to like practice my classical stuff, like I would just sort of like improvise stuff that was really mellow and like laid back, and it's always been like a stylistic thing on my part. Like yeah, I can go crazy and like play rock and roll and just like go ham, but like where my heart is like I play like I love Debussy, the classical composer, and like I love like Schumann and all these other composers that are like their music is so mellow, and it just like if you're not in the right state of mind, like you're not gonna sit down and listen to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like it's like I guess it was just like stuff that I wanted to just like ease my mind with, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the lo-fi stuff, it's just like, oh, I can make a beat and then I can put some chill keys over it, and like then I can create sort of a soundscape kind of thing, and that's cool. So.
What does that do for you as an artist when you create a piece like that or finish it? Like, I know I always get such a rush of like energy or something kind of greater when I create something or I finish a project. Like, is it a release for you? Do you feel like you've gotten out of your head? Do you feel motivated to continue? Like, how does that affect you when you're able to put some like personify your thoughts into these sounds?
Yeah, it makes me feel good.
Yeah, I hope so.
Is there a difference between, writing a song like Tied In
Yeah.
compared to conveying an emotion in Vonnegut? In writing,
Yeah,
is there a difference in writing for that?
Because in Tied In I'm singing, and that's like the biggest thing, not obstacle, but it's like my voice is like the weakest part of my musicality, I feel. And like I've been trying to like craft that and work on that. And like for some people, like their voice, like my friend Zach that I was talking about earlier, like that's so natural for him. Like he opens his mouth and it's just like people start levitating. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. Like he just has like one of those.
I was just thinking about that. Like, what a power, sorry.
Yeah. And so like that's something that like I have a good voice, but it's not like chiseled. Like I have to sort of work on it to get it so that's not distracting from the music. You know what I mean? Like there's like some takes of songs that I've done where like I've played them for like Marika or I've played them for other people, and they're like, "Can you like fix the vocals, or like can you like do another vocal take?" And like the music is great, but like the vocals need some work, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
I've never thought that at all about your music. I mean, and we all love Bob Dylan, right?
You hear the finished product, but you didn't hear like all the
I also think you're too hard on yourself a lot, and I think that like whatever I get is I'm there. I honestly, maybe that's because I'm a layman, but I'm listening to the entire composition of it all, right? And so yeah, that definitely like the last song you sang, I thought the vocals were very inspiring, with Tied In. I love, like I don't know what you're talking about, but you've completed Are We Stuck, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Did that unstick you and wherever you were at the time writing this?
Yes, I think it definitely got me in another headspace that I wasn't in before. Um,
How?
just
Is it just like, did it make you think of these situations in a different light, or did you just need to get that energy out? Because I think of that myself all the time when I'm literally, and we use this word stuck a lot, but it's stuck really to me means like in ruts or in this like period of time where I'm like, I don't have the
Mhm.
energy, or I go through times where I'm very stressed out. And then there's times where I'm so free like a bird, but there's times when I'm literally in this rut. And I find that like I'm so curious as to how what I should do to, healthily get out of those things sometimes.
well, I wrote the title track is called "Are We Stuck," right?
Mm,
And I can sing it for you guys in a little bit, but like it's not very healthy because like in the song I talk because you just said how do I deal with this in a healthy way, and
yeah.
like I say like are we stuck in our molds, and then I say like let me carve into you. So it's sort of like saying let me carve into your mold, like
Yeah.
let me try to set you free, but like in a darker way. It's like let me like pull into you to try to make myself feel better, or to try to make like try to get me to get out
Yeah.
of this. You know
We
what I
do that
mean?
all the time. We rely on other people, I think, a lot, right? Like or I seek that solace from somebody else when I can't figure out my own shit sometimes, right? You go try to find that warmth from somebody, or you go hang out with your friends, or it's interesting how much we play, like, if you're not conscious of it and you're not thinking about it, it can be very emotionally abusive towards other people when we like, here, I need you to hide this weight from me, or like I'm going to focus on you now, and it becomes unhealthy for me because I'm like, it should be about growth, I think, and for me personally.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like if you're always relying on people, even people that are willing to like put up with you or willing to like give you that support, but it's still like you have to like be aware of there's certain things that I guess you have to sort of deal with yourself as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Eventually,
And yeah, and sometimes you're stuck in the inability to do that sometimes. Like I always talk about this, I always struggle with my weight, right? Like and I want to be more fit, and I want to, like for once, like go to the beach and be like, hey, like my tone will change if I'm in really good shape. And
Hey.
but I find that like, part of the reason why I don't take care of myself physically sometimes is because I get extremely busy and I get stressed out, and food and drink and the things that come with it, which are the social aspects generally,
Yeah.
are what get me through those times. And exercise is always something that I can do for spurts, but so I find that I get stuck in that self-help aspect of it too, and then it becomes an even bigger thing because then I go like, God, what's wrong with me? Like it's
Yeah.
just a self-fulfilling, like, it's just the snake eating its own tail, this constant evolution of me like trying to solve something and being unable to, and then it diving me further down into a place where I don't feel great about myself.
Hmm.
Why
And
don't, oh, good.
yeah, one more thing I was going to add on to that is that like when back in college or high school, I guess you always look back on those days like if you had a good experience, I guess. But like I had a really good experience, and like I feel like there's such a like drastic difference between back then and now, where like back then I was like surrounded by all my friends, and like um, I was just like constantly being reassured, and I was just like more confident too, in a sense, and definitely not justified confidence, but like I was like chest out, sort of like look at me, and then like now it's like I sometimes I get those like feelings of like self-deprecation and all that stuff, and all that fun stuff. Um, but I don't really know what I was going with that. Sorry.
Yeah, bro.
Sometimes you just
There's
get
my
stuck.
there's my brain fart for the
It's all
podcast.
good, man. I just start talking, and it inevitably ends in somewhere. And it's going, okay, yeah. I hope that formed a thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think that we can definitely identify with like what you're talking about, though, right? Is this moment when we're
Mhm.
younger, and like you're living, you don't realize you're living your best time, right? And you're like, oh man, like I'm the king of the castle. I happened to me a few times, right? Like I felt like towards the end of my high school career I had a lot of popularity with a group of people, and towards the end of college I felt the same way, like, or at least, you know, I'm a loud enough person that everyone heard me at some point. I wouldn't say I was actually like revered. It was probably just there's that guy that everyone can hear all the time. But when I left college, a lot of me like suffered greatly because that ego that I had developed unchecked, you know, because I hadn't had the experience of being stooped, you know, and it was challenging to go on with my life feeling like it was over, you know, like it was over at that time. My girlfriend for a long time broke up with me too, and I was like, God, what a giant piece of shit am I? You know, and it was such a weird thing, like, because you get out of high school, and in high school they're like, oh, like here's money, like, oh, you're done, congratulations, you're so great. You get out of college and everyone's like, what are you doing next? And you're like, what uh partying still? I don't know, what am I doing? I didn't think that far. I thought you just got a job.
Yeah.
But,
Well, let me play a little bit and see if we can, you know. All right. Okay. Get out of my head, get out of my head. I'll be living the days, I'll be stuck in the days. Why does everyone hate? Why does everyone hate? Maybe hate is just the fear of hate. Maybe it's a feeling we can't escape. No matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we try. Speak for yourself. I've been losing faith, I've been losing faith. I've been feeling empty, I've been feeling fake. Only way I can get out of this. Someone give me a plan, someone give me a sign I can't miss. Let me in, let me in, let me in. Let me Yeah.
You know what's cool is like again, it's another like thing where I was just fully in my imagination land during that one, bro. That was cool. I love the energy change in that one. You know, you were saying, "Are we stuck in the end?" Am I right on that?
No. I was saying, are we stuck in a mold?
In a mold.
Yeah.
Oh, I was vibing too hard. You know what I mean? Are we stuck in a mold? Okay. All right. I think there's a like I am refused now to ask you what you mean by that. I'm going to tell you what I think you mean by that. How does that work?
Yeah.
There we go. Boom. And
Please,
if I get it right, what I win a prize. Okay.
Hey, Rob, what did you think
Oh,
about that?
you know, I don't like to talk about my thoughts, but I would say that are we stuck in a mold? To me, when I hear that, I think about the idea that like we're sort of in certain ways we're a slave to our own traditions, right? And I find that a lot, that like there's this idea of like the nuclear family, or that I should be married by a certain age and have kids by a certain age, and that I should do these things in this consistent pattern. And as much as I understand that that pattern can lead to success, it's a real shame that that's the only pattern that we're offered, which is like school, like your life's like this, get a job, do all these things. And I find that the more that I experience things outside of that, that like a lot of times I feel like when I'm doing them, or there's something wrong with it, right? And that's that stuck in the mold mentality, because I go out and I like, you know, I want to go and go to, I don't know, go for a like a wilderness experience, like go camping and get and drink and you know, and have a good time. Or I want to go look at a piece of art and I want to feel moved by it, or I want to make a weird shape that no one's ever made before. And I feel like when I start to access that artistic element of the freedom of that, or any of that, or any of my choices, that constantly, just for me, I feel like there's this path that I'm supposed to follow. When I deviate from that, I like, you know, socially, I become unacceptable to myself. And it's really strange, because my most cathartic experiences, my most liberating experiences, have been times when I've shed that sort of heavy coat of expectation and done what I felt was right for me. And I feel like, again, when I think about times, just to bring this in, when I think about times when I'm stuck, I think about this aspect of like, oftentimes it's me thinking things have to be a certain way, or that I need to look successful to people, or I need to, you know, fit the social standing so my family or my friends don't look down on me. And it's so interesting. And when I hear that, like, are we stuck in a mold? You know, I think a lot about this is a picture of what we think it's going to be, that's been created by tradition and everything that we see on TV all the time.
Yeah. I kind of ripped from, I didn't rip from it. It's like, I bet there's a bunch of songs that
Steal like an artist, baby.
Bittersweet Symphony.
Oh my
By the
gosh.
Verve, where he's like, I can change my mold. I can change. I am here in my mold. I am here in my mold.
Oh yeah.
And there's a million different people with one day. I'm a million different people from one day to the next. He says, I can change my mold. Yeah. So that was like, you know, really good, big inspiration for me too. Like that imagery. I just love that imagery of like having that your personality and like who you are is like sort of also like constraining and like keeps you in your place and doesn't, you know. Yeah.
Do you feel comfort in the fact that when you create songs like this, that they will live on or live past you?
That they'll age like fine wine?
That too, man. I hope that, honestly, this is my dream, that I go out in a blaze of glory. I save a whole cruise ship. Got stuck in the canal and was stopping trade, and I pushed it out. And then I did, but I didn't make it, right? And then they go and they listen to all these podcasts that I made, and they're like, gosh, this is what we like Cam more, but you know, this guy,
he's kind of quiet.
He's a talker.
Like him more.
but I like the fact that I like, honestly, and the 100% seriousness is I really enjoy creating these because I feel like they're little snippets of my life that I've created that I added my personality into, right? And then I hope that even like this sort of technology lives, it's like a picture. It's an encapsulation of who I was in that moment, right? And so are your songs in a way, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's why it's so like hard to listen to, because it's like, why was I thinking that, or why was, you know what I mean?
My pre-evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you I only bring this up because I know one of your tracks in your album is about mortality, right? And we tackled this conversation with my father because in a few episodes ago, if you haven't listened to that, shame on you, go listen to it. It's beautiful. But like, I think about that a lot, right? And I think that, you know, every day you age, you start to kind of conceive of that. Especially we've been so death adjacent this whole year, more so than, even though like I've lost a lot of people in previous years, but this just idea of impending doom, this death adjacent life that we're living, which is like at any moment, you know, really caused me to think a lot about that idea. And I wonder like what was the inspiration, you know, or what aspect of being stuck comes from you want to talk about mortality?
Just like setting my priorities and knowing like, I don't know, like the other song also, like Beholden, where I deal with like religion and my upbringing with religion and my thoughts on it, and like how I've sort of distanced myself from religion and just sort of like try to seek the truth, whatever the truth is, but like truth with a capital T, you know, like objective reality, and like, um, what am I going to be thinking on my deathbed? That was like the concept for the song. It's like, if I'm on my deathbed and like I have an hour to live, like who am I going to be thinking about?
Yeah.
You know, and like what, and sort of, that's sort of a nice way to like, some people might think that's super morbid, but I just think it's like super real. Like the fact that you can like put yourself in your, you know, deathbed shoes and be like just come to terms with that and like be at peace with that and be like, what do I want to prioritize in my life so that when I'm there, I'm not like, fuck, like what was I doing? You know, like,
I think that's more close to what people think a lot. I mean, a lot of people have been around people who've passed away, and I'm sure that thought process comes into their head when they talk about that. I don't think it's being morbid, right? I think our relationship with death is really important, and a lot of people attribute meditation to a practice of being okay with your you know, your finite amount of time that you have here to become timeless in that idea.
right.
I know, like, I took care of my grandfather who had Lou Gehrig's disease. And basically, if you don't know what Lou Gehrig's disease does, ALS, your mind still works and your body shuts down. And that to me has crept on me as one of the most terrifying things. And I watched my grandfather go through this, and I watched those thoughts, and I still think about that, like, you know, and the things that he wished he could communicate to me and all those things. And it gave me it terrified me and gave me a lot of hope at the same time in this idea, right? That like, you know, or not hope, understanding that what he told me in those final moments, essentially typing with his, you know, with his device because he couldn't speak. And he said, like, I'm gonna miss you. Like that relationship with that moment with me, with him, when he said that to me, like I still can think about that today and just see so much of what he was saying to me, and with only a few words, you know, and this acceptance of that. And I think about that a lot. And I think that a lot of the things when we talk about like what we mean or what we want is an ability to kind of control that last moment of our lives, right? And we inevitably won't have any, right? So I think that how we have control over those things is we say a lot of the things that we mean, whether with words or with like our art or with whatever we do for people. Like those are the things, our actual creation and articulation of our thoughts and feelings is how we reach that point and go like, okay, I've left enough of myself here, right? You know, so I think like it's such an interesting concept to think about, and especially in that idea of, are we stuck? We automatically think when we're stuck, like, what's my end life going to be like? you know?
Yep. That's like the inevitable.
I think though,
question.
if the actual process of taking that moment and thinking about what you value can almost give you permission to become unstuck or to break that mold or do something different. If you go through that process of kind of putting yourself in that place of your final, it's not an hour, it's minutes. It's your final minutes. It's not an hour that you get to think about it.
Right.
I can tell you that from experience. But yeah, I think it gives you, it allows you, if you think about it enough, allows you the freedom to kind of break that mold and get unstuck. I think we tend to get stuck when we get into the mundane, repetitious, day after day stuff and not think about the big pictures, things like that.
Yeah.
You actually echoed what I was about to say. Like, I should have called it like final seconds or final minutes, because that's really what it probably would be. Should I play the song?
Love it.
I love that. And what's the name of this song?
Final Hour.
Wow. Another really great song. Um, you know, you have a great talent of putting, writing lyrics that tell a great story, but I gotta say again, your musicality really brings out and puts forward that emotion and really puts you in that place. You know, that song to me, starting off with these kind of dark kind of tones in the music really kind of sets up this sort of morbid. It's almost like a morbid love song. Kind of,
Damn.
it's this very
Yeah.
dark, it's this very dark love song, and the tones at the beginning of the song set this really, kind of mood.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of hit those, I don't know that they're not strings, but when you kind of hit those happy notes, when you
Right.
kind of start vamping, I'll be thinking of you, really bringing this kind of joyous kind of the dopamine is firing in the brain in this dark kind of world.
Yeah.
And
I never
there's
thought
some,
about it that way.
you bring some like real joy into this kind of ominous dark moment. So well done, great job.
You fixed it.
Thank you.
It's-
Thank
You
you.
just cured death.
Yeah.
I'm always immensely impressed listening to your
Thanks,
songs
man.
and you play and your writing. It's
I appreciate that.
It makes
It
me want to
hits-
learn how to be a musician.
I think you could.
So
I
it's
think you
never
do
too
very-
late. It's never too late.
Nah, bro.
So we've, first, thank you for playing all the songs you've played. They've all been great. I'm really excited for the album. Is there an out date for the album as of right now?
It's coming soon. It's gonna be out in May, mid-May.
Oh.
I'll leave it at that, mid-May. And
That's
I'll
a
announce-
Goodbye Lunar promise, mid-May.
Promise.
Yeah, that's a promise.
So, I know you said when you wrote this, it almost came out of it was more questions than answers. But
mhm.
is there through writing this and
Yeah.
making this, is there any advice that you'd give to for being stuck?
I think I'm not one to give advice, but like, I honestly think like being as honest as possible, because even if you get rejected, you know that you are being completely 100% honest in yourself, and like, if people reject that, they reject you, so like it hurts, but like at least you weren't like faking it, you weren't like posing as something else. And then just like not being deceived by anything, whether that be what you grew up with, what your parents told you, what your family told you. Always keeping a sharp eye on like what you think the truth is, and like sticking to that, and not straying from that. Yeah.
I laugh because you preface it with, "Oh, I'm not much to give advice, but here's some very sage wisdom to."
Yeah, that's a real front and back of a t-shirt. I think that would be like there's two different parts of the advice. There's a front side and and then in the back it says don't be deceived. And I like that. As we're coming out of this t-shirt line, that's going to be the one that kind of like gets people excited
That
after
one
we've done the
hits.
same thing a few times.
Don't be deceived.
Don't be deceived. now that has to be the outro quote. But it won't be. And then they'll be like, "Oh, we got deceived. Oh my God, anyways, we're going too far down this rabbit hole. Get back on track."
Are we stuck?
Are we still-
And we've
yes,
come full circle.
that's how you do it. That's how you tighten all the bolts.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank you so much for coming and sharing all your new music with us.
No
It's-
worries.
it
Thank
was
you guys for
beautiful,
letting me.
honestly and straight up, anybody who misses this show that we got coming up is a fool in a short hands, because this is going to be a really good. I mean, I honestly just listen to you play and I experience this stuff and it makes me think. And I love stuff that makes me think or makes me feel, you know, and like that seems very general, but like we talked about exactly the stuff. I can't wait to hear the next album, man. And I, you know what I love even more is hearing you confidently just start to really, you're keen on the ideas that you have. They're perfectly juxtaposed with the songs that you're writing, and like it's gonna be cool. I really am. I love being a part of witnessing your evolution as an artist. It's really thrilling.
I hope.
I know there's
not devolving. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
I was gonna say I know there's not a concrete date on the album coming out, but I think you have some stuff coming out, some singles and some other exciting things that.
A music video will be out April 23rd or April 24th, and then
where can we find that music video?
That will be on Instagram and YouTube. And then I'll have a couple singles out. Cinco de Mayo, actually.
Oh God, I forgot that's coming up. I gotta prepare.
Yeah. And what's your Instagram handle so we can all follow and make sure we're up to date?
It's Goodbye Lunar.
I love it.
I got that domain down.
Bro, yeah. Was it a different name before you searched it and it was like the website was taken? Because I did that one.
No. It was first try and it worked. Perfect.
I love it. I love the name.
Speaking of being able to lock up that Goodbye Lunar Instagram handle, is there any way we could get you to play the title track of the title artist?
Yeah, your moniker.
Goodbye Lunar to exit us out of this podcast.
I'll only do it for Rob.
Oh my God, I'll cry, bro.
Well, I appreciate that. I apprate that, but
and yeah, but I mean,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Don't be offended. Don't be offended.
I'm not.
That's another T-shirt.
Don't be offended.
Sure.
Well, thank you, Goodbye Lunar. Everyone, make sure to check out all of his socials. We've got another studio session. All of this is going to be up on YouTube, so if you don't catch it live, you'll be able to catch it afterwards. You can go to the Play Upstream YouTube channel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We need that in every ad that we do.
That's news to me.
Where it's posted is to be determined, everyone. So make sure to come only to the live. And once again, thank you again for sharing your talent and your music and your art with us.
No worries. Thank you guys for everything you've done, the platform you've provided for me, and I love you guys.
I love you, buddy.
Luna, give me time. Goodbye forever. So goodbye forever.
I'm not one to give advice, but like being as honest as possible, because even if you get rejected, you know that you are being completely 100% honest in yourself.
Thanks for listening to And Sometimes Guests, presented by Play Upstream.
If you'd like to contribute, you can subscribe to patreon.com/playupstream or at PayPal at playupstream@gmail.com.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Play Upstream. Make sure to check out our brand new website, playupstream.org, to keep up with all of our other exciting projects.
Enjoy yourself and support art.